Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Jeff Webster, President and CEO of the Greater San Antonio Chamber.
John, thank you for spending part of your day with the folks at the Greater San Antonio Chamber and our business community. You know, I got to tell you, many of you think you're here for the mayor and the state of the city, but I've decided to make this my first concert. I'll be performing my first few songs with the mariachis. The first couple of ones are rough, but stick with me, they'll get better. And then I went to the mayor and I said, Mayor, you don't get to talk. You have to sing. We're going to do a concert. And she said she's ready. So we'll find out what kind of song she has for us this afternoon. Can we have a round of applause for the John J. Mariachis? I do seriously want to thank everybody for being here today. My name is Jeff Webster. I'm the President and CEO of the Greater San Antonio Chamber. This is a very important event for us. Annually, this is a very important event. This year it's even more special as the mayor will get her opportunity to deliver her first State of the City here with us and the business community. We must be aligned as a city with a vision and a program of how we grow this city. And in my words, I'm biased, Mayor, I apologize. I believe it starts right here at the Greater San Antonio Chamber, the luncheon and the speech you're going to deliver today. So we are glad to have you here. This is a very exciting time for us, and we really appreciate that. Today, let me introduce, come on stage, from John Jay High School, the Air Force JROTC Honor Guard from John Jay High School, followed by the John Jay Mariachi playing our national anthem. Please rise.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
If you remain standing, I'd like to introduce Monsignor Roberto de Guzman from the Assumption Seminary for today's invocation. Monsignor.
we make ourselves aware of God's presence. A virgin will conceive and bear a son who will be called Emmanuel, a name which means God is with us. Let us pray. We gather this afternoon for the State of the City 2026. 2026, Lord, you know what we are going through. You know each of us through and through. Not all of us here are politicians. Not all of us are powerful and rich. Not all of us were born here. Not all of us have white skin. Not all of us are Christian. But we are all here because we love this city, San Antonio. All of us here are capable of love and goodness, of care and compassion, because you created each and every one of us in your own image. Thank you for this special identity you give us. Teach us to see beyond differences and to recognize the goodness you have planted in every heart. We reflect on the state of our city. May we say what needs to be spoken and listen to what needs to be heard, so that we can decide what needs to be done in this challenging task of community building. Guard our mayor and our leaders with wisdom, integrity, and courage, and strengthen all of us to build not only structures and systems, but a community rooted in justice, mercy, and peace. Let us build each other up. If the Lord does not build the house, in vain do its builders labor. Be the foundation of our efforts, the light of our decisions, the force that inspires us. May our experience of your love, our love for you, and our love for this city move us to serve one another with generosity, selflessness, and hope, until we reach the eternal city you have prepared for us forever and ever. Amen.
We're blessed today to have an outstanding crowd of local leaders, and I'll call them celebrities. At our head table, I'd like to introduce Mayor Gina Ortiz Jones and her partner, Dr. Angelica Cortez, at the head table here. Thank you. Greater Chamber 2026 Board Chair, Kevin Denon, the First Day Foundation. Denon. And our good friend from the commander of the 502nd Air Wing and JBSA, Brigadier General Randy Oakland. General, thank you for being here with us. Also at our head table, Julie Nash with PMI. Marco Messias with PMI. My good friend Gary Joris with Joris. Chris Corso with Joris. Frank Voss with Toyota. A man we can't say enough thanks to, our friend and city manager, Eric Walsh. Eric, thank you. From USAA, our friend and board member, Lindsay O'Neill. Susan McCabe, also from USAA. The Monsignor, who you just heard from, is joining us at our head table. Thank you, Monsignor. Wonderful prayer. Andrea Drosh with San Antonio Report, who will be talking and chatting with the mayor here shortly. Andrea? And the man we have to say a lot of thank you to, improving our city with his team at TxDOT. Charles Benavides, the district engineer for TxDOT. Spit that right out. And joining us today, we have several elected officials. State Representative Josie Garcia came in. Josie, please stand up. Representative Liz Campos. State Representative Trey Martinez Fisher. Our state reps are here. Thank you all very much. Our city council members have joined us. From District 2, City Councilmember Jalen McKee Rodriguez. District 3, City Councilmember Phyllis Villagran. District 4, Edward Murguia. District 5, Councilmember Terry Castillo. District 7, Marina Odarete Gavito. District Marina. District 8, Eva Meza Gonzalez. Eva Lace here. District 9, Councilwoman Misty Spears. And in District 10, Councilmember Mark White. Also joining us today is the mayor of Alamo Heights. I saw you closely here. Where were you? Raise your hand. Where are you? There he is. Mayor Al, thank you for being here today. Our Bexar County tax assessor, Albert Ureste. I don't know if we cheer or boo, but we get our tax assessor. I just had to pay that. Does an amazing job for us. Judge Marisa Flores is here with us today. From Bexar County Tax Appraisal District, member Naomi Miller is joining us. Naomi? Alamo Community College Trustees and Vice Chair Joe Alderete, former councilman. Alamo College's trustee Gerald Lopez. Bill, thank you, sir. Dr. Lorraine Paulino. I thought I saw Mike Flores, our chancellor, coming. Mike, right there, yeah. Didn't have us, thank you. He has agreed to rename Alamo Colleges the Amazing Alamo Colleges. We're excited about that. From San Antonio River Authority, board member Lisa Batachev. From the River Authority board member Jim Campbell. San Antonio River Authority board member Jerry Gonzalez. And San Antonio River Authority Mike Lackey. Mike, you're raised out. I see you. Good to see you, my friend. You know, we don't do these events without the help and support of our sponsors. I would like to thank our platinum sponsors, Joris. This is Joris, thank you very much for your support. Our friends at USAA, Toyota Texas, PMI US. Thank you very much. Can we have a round of applause for our platinum sponsors? I'd also like to thank our gold sponsor, McCombs Enterprises, our valet sponsor, Community First Health Plans, our VIP reception sponsor, Frost Bank. Thank the folks at Frost. And I want to thank all our silver and bronze sponsors. We have some of our small business sponsors here. You'll see these on stage and on screen. We thank everyone for supporting and making this event successful. I can't thank you enough for your commitment to the chamber and our community. If I can right now, we're going to be moving at a pace to be respectful every time. We have a short video we'd like to show you.
Leadership never goes out of style. That's one thing you have yesterday, you have it today, and you have it tomorrow. Gina and I go back 36 years. Mom brought her up before she had spent one day at John Jay High School and wanted to get her involved in student council. I'm not sure that Gina was up to it at that time, but after a while, she embraced the leadership part of it. She's very goal-oriented.
We met when we were in 6th grade, instantly became super close friends. spending the night at each other's houses. I remember going to church with her and her family. We both went to John Jay together.
Mayor Jones and I grew up together here in San Antonio, Texas. We shared the same church community, Catholic church, Filipino community, and we also had the opportunity to be on a Philippine folk dance troupe together. I don't know if she wants that out in public, but it is now.
It was interesting to see her change from not really caring about a lot of things that were going on to caring about the schoolmates, student council. Everything she touched, she cared about. She had a passion for it.
After she went to school, we just stayed in touch. And anytime she came in town, we made it a point to dinner, lunch, whatever. And it was those lunches that would last for like 6 hours, and time never passed. And so we just always, made sure that we stayed in touch, always checked in with each other.
She was always somebody who strove to help others and to maximize her support of others in any way possible. Integrity is important to her. Faith in a greater being is important to her. I really saw that in the community that we shared.
Once she has something in her mind, she wants to make things better. At that time, it was a school, but in this case, it's the community, the city.
When you think of student council, you thought of Gina, and she was the drill commander at RLTC. She was always so disciplined. Even then, there wasn't distractions in high school, and she always had this tunnel vision of what the future was or what came next. And I remember just thinking, like, what is student council going to do when we graduate? Because she was so involved and everywhere and everything and had her hands in all of it. It wasn't just like, oh, student council president. It was like, no, we need to, like, if she was attached to it, it had to be done right.
She was raised in a single-parent household. She had to deal with her mother being sick. Served in the military, which is always hard when you're deployed, both of us having been deployed. It's hard being away from your family, especially when there are issues at home, whether it's a relative that's not well or whatnot. And I really saw her resilient.
She wants the same opportunities that she had for everyone. And I think when you come from struggle, you see things differently. And when you have conversations with people and they tell you their struggles, you want for them to have the same opportunities that you had. She just wants everyone to ascend to their greatness.
She has a lot of heart. I mean, her energy is not just infectious, but unending. She's just fun to hang out with.
Gina, she's hilarious. And I always tell people, like, she's one of the funniest people that I know. And when we get together, we're cackling, laughing loud. People are turning and looking. Like, she's so funny.
Just the upbringing that we had here in San Antonio really endeared us to a life of service. She was one of the brave, folks who volunteered for deployment to Iraq during that time. In her life as a civilian, I saw that same energy with focus on integrity and practical execution.
She's never lost sight of the investments that were made to her and how that gave her the space where she is now. Her focus is the people and doing what's right for everyone. I think that the city is going to see changes from one group of people to the other. Nobody left behind. Every detail is important to her. That mentality in itself is what's going to change so many different parts of the city.
In the future, things are going to be better than they are today.
Mayors and folks have some really nice things to say about you, no pressure. And I got to admit, I love the new graphic and video we have for this event. That is just, I love how that looks. I want to take a minute to thank the Greater San Antonio Chamber staff. If you guys would raise your hands, who put this together, worked very hard to make this happen. We are also joined today by some of our small business ambassadors and ambassadors. If you guys will raise your hands and be recognized. Thank you for everything you do on behalf of the Chamber. Mayor, we're here today to hear from you and hear how we figure out how we move the city forward. We've got challenges, we've got opportunities, and we're anxious to hear your presentation and your conversation with Andrea. So with that, Mayor Gina Ortiz Jones.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Monsignor. If there's any, there should be, after you hear his opening prayer, there should be no additional surprises about why I am the way that I am. Thank you, Monsignor, for blessing us with that beautiful prayer. Thank you to our servers who are taking such good care of us. Thank you to the Greater Chamber and the sponsors for hosting this event. Thanks to my team for helping make this happen. A special thank you to Buck, my student council advisor from John Jay High School, who continues to mentor me. Drea, my 78245 voice of reason. And Trish, my Filipino folk dancing comadre. Thank you. Thanks, of course, to my mom for being here, to which I owe everything. Thank you, Mom. And of course, Angelica. Thanks, love. I know this is also a very busy time for you. And one more time for the John Jay High School Mariachi and Texas 782nd. Thank you, Master Sergeant Godin. And of course, thank you all for being here for this important conversation. As I was thinking about my remarks today, 10 months in the seat, I had to reflect on what we have accomplished, the work we have to do, and the very real financial challenges before us in our community. Our financial realities and the pace of change, from legislation to technology, require we rethink our approach to almost everything. The state of our city is the choice between status quo, business as usual, or something better. Strategic choices that will define our city. Big choices are before us with the FY27 budget and the upcoming bond, albeit a much smaller bond than we were anticipating, nearly half of what we had in 2022 at just $600 million. Both require some hard choices about what we want and what we need. The biggest choice before us, however, is how and whether we want to help ourselves. While frustrations are understandably high in our community about what is coming down from Washington and Austin, we are fortunate to still have steps we can take to determine our own trajectory, so our community is not left behind. Recent examples include moving the date of our municipal election from May to November, a rare opportunity the state gave us to help ourselves increase voter turnout. And I'm thankful enough of my colleagues recognized this gift and the responsibility we have to increase turnout and save money where we can. Failing to do so would have left us as the only major city in Texas that still had municipal elections in May. Our democracy works better when we hear from more of our neighbors at the ballot box. I'm looking forward to constituting the Mayor's Commission on Voting under the auspices of my office to ensure we're doing everything possible to ensure awareness and access for our community as we head into November 2026. Late last year, we saw how devastating the freeze in SNAP benefits were for our community, a community that sees $50 million worth of SNAP funding flow into our community each month. I continue to be thankful to the businesses that contributed to the fund I established for families in need. In 96 hours or so, we raised $1.6 million to help 10,000 SNAP recipients each receive $150 that month. As someone who relied on reduced lunch for a period as a child, I know how important that bridge was that month. And my thanks as well to the city staff, especially Metro Health and the Health and Human Services team for facilitating that. Faced with the financial uncertainty, last fall I asked the city staff to conduct a tabletop to game out some of the worst cuts we might experience, particularly cuts to federal funding for affordable housing and public health. This wasn't unlike what we would do at the Pentagon, frankly, game out the scenarios keeping us up at night to reduce uncertainty. The team brought together over 40 community partners. I see many of you that participated in that exercise. Thank you. To think through those challenges, identify what assumptions we as a community might be making, and understand the risks involved with those cuts. That was a helpful intellectual exercise as we approach the budget and have a working knowledge of risks as we see the implementation of the One Big Beautiful Bill that will usher in cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, CHIP, and SNAP. San Antonio has a proud history as Military City USA. Every enlisted airman and guardian comes through Lackland Air Force Base, and from Wilford Hall to NSA West, from pilot training at Randolph Air Force Base to whatever it is they do at Camp Bullis. Well, I know what they do. There isn't a part of our town that the military doesn't touch. And now we find ourselves at a moment where economic and national security are increasingly intertwined. Another opportunity for us to rethink how we help ourselves compete, which is why earlier this year I established the Mayor's Economic Security Advisory Group focused on strengthening our ability to compete in the following sectors: AI, quantum technology, biotechnology, and space manufacturing. A strategic focus on these foundational technologies and sectors, coupled with a world-class cadre of professionals steeped in various aspects of this work, will provide recommendations that guide our investments and policies to strengthen these sectors individually and across, while helping us attract related business to San Antonio. I know I saw Jim Pershbach, who has graciously agreed to chair that group. My thanks to Jim for his leadership. At the same time, we are looking at strengthening the foundation upon which all of this is built, our people. I recently led an economic delegation to Taiwan, and I had my power generation stats down. Rudy, you'd be very proud, right? CPS, largest municipally owned energy utility in the country. We've added 4,500 megawatts since 2023. We're on track to do 5,700 megawatts by 2030, et cetera, et cetera. But Taiwanese leaders across the board highlighted their greatest concern was talent, people. Having enough folks with the right skills to keep the talent pool healthy, productive, and competitive. We must invest in our people, and I would argue prioritize the most vulnerable. To that end, I established the Educational Opportunities Committee, chaired by Councilman Galvan, to ensure we as a city are accounting for how the current state of education in our community was impacting our economic trajectory. Additionally, I commissioned 2 reports that were recently released with actionable steps we can and must take to invest in our people. Both are available on my webpage for public feedback, sa.gov/mayor. The first has to do with early learning and childcare, while the second looks at increasing the affordable housing supply for our neighbors who traditionally face higher barriers to housing. Our seniors, LGBTQ youth, people with disabilities, and our veterans. Thank you to Councilman Galvan for your leadership on education, and to Justina, Veronica, and the Housing Services team for their leadership of the Housing Supply Report, and of course to Councilman Munguia for shepherding that through the Planning Committee. As the Undersecretary of the Air Force, I saw firsthand the critical contributions San Antonio makes to our armed services. The vast majority of young people who serve come from 25 counties, because the #1 indicator of whether somebody will serve is if they know somebody who has served, which is why communities like Bexar County are especially as important in that regard. And if we are not raising enough smart and healthy kids, it is in fact a national security issue. Moreover, as the Under, I saw how affordable, accessible childcare was the determining factor when many, mainly female service members, contemplated continuing service. I commissioned a study, actually, that showed that if a female service member had a child on the wait list at the Child Development Center on base, if they became pregnant again, they were 3 times as likely to leave the service. So this is as much about talent retention and, frankly, national security as anything else. But those are also important things that we need here in our community. Early learning and affordable, high-quality childcare options are similarly the deciding factors for whether someone will remain in or exit our workforce. As the 3rd poorest city in the country, we need all hands on deck to ensure folks are contributing to our economy, and early learning and affordable, high-quality childcare help to do just that. Again, I welcome your feedback on those reports. Helping ourselves on the economic development front is exactly why I wanted to lead a delegation to Taiwan less than 6 months after hosting a Taiwanese delegation here last fall. For those of you that may be familiar, it's the Taiwan Electric and Electronic Manufacturing Association that was traveling through Texas last fall, and we had all of 96 hours notice and was able to host them here in San Antonio. We were originally not on their list. Again, folks know Houston and Dallas and Austin, but thankfully I knew somebody that was helping arrange that, and we had a great visit with them. So this visit recently was on the heels of that. We had a great group from our ESAG chair, Chim Birschbach, to Eric Adolfi, who's a local CEO working in the post-quantum space, to Heather Hansen with Biomed SA, and of course, my colleague, Councilwoman Spears, who did a great job representing our city. We were graciously hosted by the Taiwanese government, from the Deputy Foreign Minister to various senior leaders on the economic and commerce sides. Interestingly, Taiwan's president has similarly focused his country on 5 key industries: AI, semiconductors, military, security and surveillance, and next-gen communications, so 6G. So it was natural to discuss potential collaborations given our mutual focus on certain sectors. Taiwan has committed to invest $250 billion in the US and an additional $50 billion on defense, making our trip and the ESAG establishment particularly timely. As we face these financial headwinds, my administration will continue to prioritize steps that show the people, our neighbors, our bosses really, that we are here to serve them, here to engender their trust. Which is why one of the first steps I was proud to get across the finish line was providing clear guidelines for how NDAs are used to support economic development, with a minimum threshold for $50 million. Proud to ensure every TERS board finally has elected representation. And yes, it looks like ensuring contracts are upheld, from fire code to economic development. Similarly, it looks like taking steps to cease programs that aren't serving us well, like the Ready to Work Incumbent Worker Program, whose ROI was well short of what our community expected and deserved. And a more recent example is working to prohibit discrimination against my fellow veterans utilizing a voucher to pay for their housing. This discrimination is the equivalent of a college or university denying a kid admission because they can't pay full tuition out of pocket and need a scholarship to attend. See how ridiculous that sounds in Military City, USA? So let me say this unequivocally. We don't deserve to call ourselves Military City, USA if we allow veterans seeking affordable housing to be discriminated against simply because they are using a voucher to pay. And I will continue working with the community and my colleagues to end this shameful discrimination. We are upon budget season. Preliminary discussions on the 2027 board and the 2027 legislative session in Austin. The budget will be tougher than it was last year, but I imagine my guidance will be the same. Fund no-fail missions. Those folks that keep us safe, we must fund their activities. Minimize cost to the most vulnerable, and minimize short-term cuts that have long-term impacts as best able. I look forward to sharing more particulars about opportunities we have to realize efficiencies between the city and the county, and between the city and our city-owned utilities. The significantly lower bond capacity will require we ruthlessly prioritize. And my buckets, in no particular order, look like streets and sidewalks, flood infrastructure, economic development, and downtown stuff. We'll just call it that. $600 million doesn't go that far, so prioritization will be the name of the game. And just last week, I attended a SAMCO meeting to share my initial thoughts on how our delegation must sing from the same song sheet in the next legislative session in light of the leadership changes at TxDOT and in the Texas Senate. Those changes don't mean we need the South Texas Parkway any less. And the same goes for State Highway 46, the 1604 I-10 connector, or the connector between I-35 and State Highway 130. And I look forward to working with many in this room to ensure we best advocate for our transportation needs. And let's not forget, we still need to finalize the term sheet with the Spurs owners regarding the proposed downtown arena. It's an exciting and busy time. We are focused on the future, recognizing so many in our community are counting on us to make smart, bold, and compassionate decisions. One of those folks is one of my guests today. Katie Slocum is the senior class president at the Young Women's Leadership Academy. I also want to thank the Young Women's Leadership Academy principal, Alfaro, for accompanying her today. Thank you. So as you can see, it is a busy time. However, we are focused on serving the people as best able and, of course, building the city that our community, our residents, our neighbors deserve. Thank you, Jeff, for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you all today. And God bless San Antonio.
Good one. Thank you very much, Mayor. I'd like to call on the stage now Andrea Drush, Senior Government and Political Reporter for San Antonio Report. She's got a few questions for the mayor, and we'll go through this, and we'll come back in about 20 minutes when they wrap this up. Thank you very much. Andrea?
Thank you. Thanks so much. I'm Andrea Drush, Senior Government and Politics Reporter for the San Antonio Report, which, if you don't know about us, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan newsroom here in San Antonio that's been covering this new mayoral administration and 4 new council members since day one. Last year, voters had the choice of 27 candidates for mayor, including 5 current or former council members who seemed like frontrunners for the job. Instead, they did something San Antonio has only done one other time in 70 years, and that is choose a mayor from outside the city council. And I think that's a good place for us to start here today. And your first major address to the business community is, why do you think in this time and in this city's trajectory that voters chose somebody from outside the city council, and how does that shape your approach to this role?
Yeah, well, look, I can't speak for why exactly folks did it. I mean, I know what I offered, and I think my background, not only my background, but I think also my personal background and the values that I communicated on the trail. I think folks have seen what that looks like in action. And I'm proud of the work that I've done alongside certainly my team, who works very, very hard. I'm quite thankful to them. But I think it looks like questioning, how things have been done in the interest of moving our entire city forward. And so we'll continue doing that. And I look forward to working alongside my colleagues to best serve our city.
Your background in military service and your time as Air Force Undersecretary is different from anybody that was in that mayoral field, and also different from anybody that's on the city council right now. And from our perspective, it seems like one of the first places that this is sort of played out a different perspective is in economic development. And at a time when San Antonio is losing Army North and Army South to North Carolina, working on bringing in jobs from Defense Health Agency, you brought in this group of Taiwanese manufacturers in August, and then led this delegation from San Antonio to Taiwan just last month. For those who don't have a national security background, why do you think that Taiwan is ripe for this type of partnership, and why now, and what type of jobs?
Yeah, well, let me also just say, when you're looking at what's happening at the federal level, right, the consolidation of Army North and Army South and the relocation of that, obviously the Department of Defense is looking at their own efficiencies to achieve there. That doesn't mean, though, that there are not steps that we can take to help ourselves. And I think going after exactly the kinds of opportunities that the ESAG will go after, AI, quantum, biotechnology, as well as space manufacturing, I think that sets us up for the future. What that also reflects, though, is that the line between economic security and national security is blurred, right? And so we have some natural advantages, and I was proud, again, alongside Councilwoman Spears and Jim and so many others that joined me on the delegation, to talk about why San Antonio is actually ripe for these things. The perception that, this is San Antonio's just military and tourism, I think is well short of where we actually are. And I think we just have to do a better job of telling our story. And I was proud to do that in Taiwan and highlight, look, Austin is 10% higher to do cost of business than the national average. San Antonio is 15% lower. So just within 70 miles, you have a 25% gap, 25% delta in cost of doing business. Secondly, we've got the second largest cyber presence outside of the Washington, D.C. area, 99,000 advanced manufacturing workers. I was also quite thankful. We had Dr. Bray from UT San Antonio talk about the pipeline that we are also building. And I know Dr. Flores is also working hard to do that with the advanced manufacturing and the cyber curriculum that he has at his school. So we were able to show the pipeline that is strong here in our community. On top of, frankly, calling it like it is, some communities won't do incentives. We obviously, if the numbers are right, we'll want to make sure that we are as competitive as we can possibly be. So I think there was when I was talking to those folks, they knew San Antonio. They knew Houston, Dallas, and Austin, but they didn't know San Antonio. So I think it's on us then to go there, explain to them why we're a great place to do business, to raise a family, and to look at the natural advantages that will allow them to succeed here as well.
You mentioned the incentives. We usually think of economic development as kind of coming from the other direction. The state is sort of looking at the opportunities and matching up cities with the right fit. Can a mayor flip that dynamic on its head and go out and pull opportunities here? Well, will you be able to put together those types of incentives without those partners?
I will never forget one of the initial conversations I had with Governor Abbott. He said very clearly, San Antonio has to up its economic development game, verbatim, right? And I have found that to be the case in my 10 months in this seat. I think there are more things that we can do to differentiate ourselves between Houston, Austin, and Dallas. Given one, quality of life, but I think also the quality of the sectors that we already have here. And so to your point of can we flip it on its head, I think we have to try. I think, you know, I'll say this. I was talking to the mayor of Kaohsiung in Taiwan, and we were talking about TSMC. And TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, and our two sister cities that I had the opportunity to engage with when I was in Taiwan, Kaohsiung, as well as Kumamoto, Japan. We signed a trilateral agreement. Essentially, you know, look, our sister city agreements have traditionally focused on culture and arts, and that's cool and that's great. However, in the year of our Lord 2026, and what we all need, we needed to up that. So our trilateral MOU focuses on strengthening the collaborations between our entrepreneurial communities. Kaohsiung and Kumamoto are their respective Silicon Valleys in their own countries, right? In Japan and in Taiwan. Both of them also have a TSMC presence. So in my conversation with the Kaohsiung mayor, I said, look, you know, there are quite a bit of similarities between us and Phoenix, where there is a TSMC presence now. And currently what's being produced is still well short of what the community, the country, and frankly the world needs in terms of advanced semiconductors. And he said this, I said, I went through our power stats, all the things, and he said, opportunity goes toward those that are ready. And so we don't have the time, we don't have the luxury of time or waiting around to say, hey, let's see if TSMC thinks about San Antonio. I think, or others, right? I think we've got to give them a reason to think about us. And so if that takes us going there and frankly being persistent and highlighting what we've got, then I think we do that.
Something that's certainly of interest to this room in terms of economic development is access to childcare, which is a big focus during the campaign and not something that we've talked as much about since you took over on the council. Your office recently published a report about the gaps to access, which says that San Antonio needs to almost double or the number of fully funded or subsidized seats available from 35,000 to 65,000. Now, where do you start?
Well, one, I think it starts with what that report does, and I know others in the community have also focused on this, but we have to understand where the gap is. I think we also have to get more nuanced in understanding who that gap disproportionately affects. So one of the things that I asked my team to really look at is help us understand, let's make sure we have a common frame of reference for access, right? I mean, if you've got a seat open, but it's 15 miles away, is that really an accessible seat? Is that really a seat that is open? So let's understand how we're defining access, and then we have a better sense of where the gaps are and how we might partner with organizations to fill those things. Actually, I was just with Leo yesterday, talking about what's the exciting things that are happening at Brooks. And they were talking about, you know, that one of the things, the nuts they haven't cracked yet is childcare. I fundamentally believe, though, this is like childcare. It's not rocket science, right? Like, we're not curing cancer. We either want to fund it or we don't. And so those are the kinds of things that, that's why I wanted the study to be commissioned. I'm thankful for the 40 or some odd folks that we convened. Dr. Bray was part of that discussion. What it really comes down to, and we saw this at the Pentagon, is it's the wages of the workers, right? It's not that there aren't enough seats, and oftentimes there are enough seats, and some places are operating at 60% vacancy. The challenge is the wages, in particular for certain kinds of communities. Later on this evening, actually, I have my night tour with Toyota that I'm looking forward to. And I wanted a night tour. I did the rear axle tour. I did all the things during the day, Frank. But I want to, for my own self, understand what are those unique challenges for somebody that's working second shift, third shift, right? What does that look like in terms of public transportation, but also the things that I talked about earlier? What does that mean for childcare? What does that mean for somebody's ability to vote, right? And so childcare is just one aspect that I think we've got to certainly fund, but think about how it looks different for different parts of our community throughout.
For the past 2 years, the city's budget survey has come back saying that residents' top concern and highest priority is addressing homelessness, and the city has kind of gone about that in a two-pronged approach of trying to connect people who are experiencing homelessness with services to get them off of the street, and also sleeping encampments.
Yeah.
If a budget is a moral document for the city, how might we see this council approach that in the upcoming budget season?
Well, look, I think, let me just say this. As impressive as Taiwan was, semiconductors, technology this, technology that, right? The thing I was most impressed of my 7 days there was that I did not see one homeless person. And I looked. After like day 2, I was like, all right, where are they? Right? Because like, this is weird. And so I started asking, I asked the Taipei mayor, I asked the Kaohsiung mayor, and they invest in those things. There's also, I think, a different, obviously, social structure that for which allows a certain level of support. But in the absence of that, right, I think a truly advanced society is one that can, yes, have semiconductors, but also have no homeless people on the streets because you're actually taking care of them. Which is why I'm thankful that I know Jalen, the SAWS chair, in her other hat, is leading in this effort on the diversion center. I think part of this is making smart investments. I know Councilwoman, I think I saw her around here, Councilwoman Castillo, the CCR, to make sure that we finally are investing in the diversion services, so we're not the last big city in Texas that does not yet have this critical public health service. So I look forward to investing in that. I think what we have seen as well, though, is things like Haven for Hope are important. They do good work. It's a model. As I travel and I talk to other mayors, they constantly they're like, what's that thing, that campus that you've got? So Haven for Hope is a great resource, and is something that we may need to apply additional resources to. I think, though, you can't, and that's exactly why, frankly, passing the ordinance that prohibits discrimination for veterans utilizing a voucher is so important. I went to the Sam Ministries Hilton Hotel there. 25% of those folks are veterans. 25% of them. So if you care about homelessness, you've got to care about people being able to utilize resources that get them into housing, and vouchers do that.
In the year that you've been here,
and that doesn't cost us anything, right? So to your point about the document, some of these things it's not always about additional funds. It's no kidding about removing the barrier. Because if you look at a map, and look, I'm the only veteran on the council, so I'm going to lean into this a little bit, because we're San Antonio Military City, USA, we've got the largest veteran population, we've got the fastest growing veteran population in the country, we've got the fastest growing female veteran population in the country. I was thankful that we had a very positive response to the letter that Judge Sakai and I wrote requesting additional money for the new Audie Murphy Hospital. I get my own care there. I know how important it is that we get a new clinic. Additionally, though, as everybody knows, San Antonio's story is the story of a map. Look at a map. Same thing with those VA facilities. We've got 13, 14 healthcare facilities in our community, only one hospital. And if you look at that 90, 3 of those clinics are below 90. That's, as you all know, that's the same issue with our libraries, our hospitals, et cetera. So when we think about, again, caring for our veterans, really living up to our identity as Military City USA, I think it means removing that discriminatory policy as quickly as possible.
In the year that you've been here, you put out some initial administrative directives that this council threw back. You had some big priorities on the agenda that were either pitched back to committee or rejected outright, and most notably, you were censured by colleagues. When we're in rooms of political insiders, often people's reaction to this is, oh my gosh, she does not understand how the weak mayor form of government works and how much support she's going to need from her colleagues to get things done. Also, we're in rooms like your town halls where there are members of the public from varying political perspectives who really like what you're doing here. They like what they're seeing, this sort of shake things up approach. To what extent do you think voters wanted you to come in and create change at City Hall, and have you been able to deliver that?
I think so. I think that's why you see the reaction that you did in some of these town halls. And look, I think I do have a different background, and I think asking tough questions and offering a potentially different way of doing things with the data that supports why that approach makes sense, I think is fair, right? And it's what our city deserves. I mean, we're the third poorest city in the country. We can try different things, right, to see if those work better. And they're not haphazard, right? So you're talking about voting. You're talking about removing housing discriminations. You're talking about, again, prioritizing not only investments and scrutiny of our educational system and how we can help improve the other foundational things, as we also reach, right? Reach which is exactly what the East Side is designed to help us do.
Some of the biggest disagreements or things that stood out have been, as a different approach from past city leaders, some of the negotiation tactics is kind of the umbrella term that I would use, whether it's pushing for revenue sharing with the Spurs or bringing the CPS leaders to City Hall to talk about the rate increase. All people in this room understand you, Gina, the negotiator. Are you expecting to get everything you want out of these things? Or?
No, I don't. I mean, I learned a long time ago. There's a difference between what I want and what I can get. I also learned a long time ago, closed mouths don't get fed, right? And we've got real needs in our community. And so when, folks talk about, our number one responsibility is to keep people safe. And so some of it is not, to your point about Gina, the negotiator, some things are negotiable and some things are not. I continue to think fire code is not negotiable. Now, other things that would allow us to strengthen our general fund so we can pay for the things that our community needs and deserves, those are negotiable, right? And I think it's important that when you do have a contract, that we fulfill it as best we can, because again, there are consequences, there are opportunity costs for our community as a result of not living up to those. So I think it's fair at all times to ask those questions, but most certainly a responsibility when you're facing some of the budget cuts that we are seeing in our own community.
Several times you've mentioned that ideas that you brought forward to the council came from things that you read elsewhere, like the Dallas moving their elections. It sort of came up at the last minute. Yeah. And it seems like you're obviously also paying close attention to federal politics still. What is your media diet like? When do you read news? What do you read? How do you consume it?
Well, I try to pay attention to the things that are going to impact San Antonio. And so it's less about the federal politics and more about the federal legislation that could impact us. I mean, I care about what's happening in Iran, not only because this is Military City USA and many of us are 1 or 2 degrees away from somebody who is serving or frankly knows a civil servant that may be serving at MSA West or at Joint Base San Antonio, and we have loved ones that may deploy in support of that. But also because, you know what, my mom tells me it's $3.91 a gallon of gas, Gina. Like I could do something about that, by the way. But so I understand that it is a challenge for our community, and so to understand how we are then going to consider those things in the context of our budget, which is why I laid out again the frame that I'll use for this one, which is fund our no-fail missions, minimize any cuts that impact our most vulnerable, as well as minimize cuts that would have the most severe and long-term impacts. So I think you've got to balance all those things because we're not operating in a silo. And I think it is helpful to understand how other cities have managed through some of these challenges themselves. Because I don't want us to be left behind. And I think it's okay for us to question. I know we do it like this. This is what it's gotten us. Look at another community. This is how they're doing it. Why can't we look at that here? And part of this is also, I'll be honest with you, raised by a single mom, 5'2", Asian, served under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. There's a bit of a well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I carry that with me to City Hall, which is well, if that city can do it, San Antonio can do it. Now,
they're giving me the wrap it up, but some days on this job must be really, really rewarding and energizing. Yeah. Some days must be really hard. But what do you tell yourself on the hard days? How do you refill your cup?
You don't have to do this. You get to do this. It's an honor to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we can do better than that. Can we have a round of applause for our panel, please? Thank you. Joining me on stage is Kevin Denon, our chairman for 2026. I want to make a couple announcements. Mayor, I'd like to let you know the Greater San Antonio Chamber has made a donation to your favorite ROTC unit at John Jay. We hope to support them just like you have. So have a round of applause for John Jay ROTC. I would also ask you to look on your table under, I believe, the dessert. Somebody has a sticker, and you get the centerpiece. If you don't want to claim it, give it to me. My wife will be impressed that I can bring her flowers. So feel free to leave any you like. With that, Mayor, we would like to present you a memento of this afternoon of your first State of the City. Can we have a round of applause for Mayor Gina Ortiz Jones? Okay. We want to wrap this up by saying thank you. I hope you learned something about our city, about our mayor. We've got a bright future, but it requires all of us to be engaged in it. With that, I'm going to leave you with one last thing. We've got this little basketball team that's about to enter the playoffs, and I thought it was only appropriate that we get a Go Spurs Go. Are you ready? Go Spurs Go! One more time. Go Spurs Go! Viva Fiesta. Thank you very much.